I wanted to love the Mutsu. I really did. I love battleships, and a new premium battleship, especially an IJN Battleship, what's not to get excited about? So I really wanted to love this ship, and I'm gonna get to that in a second. I'm gonna get to why there's a loss of love. First, let's talk a little bit about this very, very unique battleship. Actually, I'm not going to talk too much about the history of this battleship. I don't want to bore you with it because there really isn't much history to it. The Mutsu really didn't do that much. I mean, she was a Nagato-class battleship and, well, her war record was virtually non-existent. She's actually noted for her destruction more than anything else. In June of 1943, she was sitting in port and she just suddenly exploded. Yeah, just boom. 1,121 crew and visitors went down with the ship. Straight to the bottom. Gone. The survivors? Well, the Japanese decided that they really didn't want word of this getting out, so they kind of shuffled them around, moved them off to menial assignments in different parts of the Pacific. Morale, of course, was very important, and this was a huge blow to morale. To have a giant battleship just blow up for no reason. The official word was it was a disgruntled employee, disgruntled sailor that blew up the ship, but that obviously was not the case. After doing some dives, they looked for evidence of enemy miniature submarines, but the US didn't employ those. We didn't like wasting our soldiers and sailors without need on suicide missions, so that went out the window, and over time it was discovered that her third turret magazine just blew up. I think it had something to do with the type of shells that he had. It's still lost in history, but that's what happened to the Mutsu. She blew up, and that's what she's known for. And now she's in World Warships. And now she's a Tier 6 premium ship, and you need to know whether she is worth picking up or not. Now by now you've already seen the video, she's got torpedoes. Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? First IJN battleship to have torpedoes. What other ships have those? German battleships, and that's it. Your Tirpitz, your Scharnhorst, your Gneisenau, they've all got torpedoes. This is the first IJN battleship to have torpedoes, and that you would think is awesome, but I just could not fall in love with this ship. Let's look at some of the features and statistics of the in-game World Warships Mutsu. Before I do that, I want to point out 3 very important things that Wargaming has passed on to me. As always, these stats are subject to change, and they are going to change, and I've got 3 changes for you right now. 1. Increase rudder deflection speed from 19.2 to 17.9 seconds. That is the exact wording that came to me. Never heard rudder deflection used before. I'm assuming that is rudder shift, so already right off the bat it's getting a buff to its rudder. And I'm going to get into that because that's going to help a lot. That was one of my big gripes about it. 2. Decreased loading time from 35 seconds to 30 seconds. Huge, again. It was another gripe that I had, and I'll cover that as well. And lastly, increased turrets rotation from 3.3 degrees per second to 3.8 degrees per second. Another very generous and nice buff right there. So those are the 3 changes that are coming this ship's way when it finally goes gold and gets released. So, the Mutsu. Let's talk about it a little bit. It's got 58,400 hit points. Carries 8 guns set in a 4-turret arrangement. Those guns are 410 millimeters. That makes those the biggest guns in Tier 6. Yes, biggest guns right there. That's a very good plus for this ship. Also, the Mutsu has torpedoes, as I have covered. It carries single 533mm torpedo tubes in a 4x1 setup. That means there are 2 on each side. These torpedoes swim at 57 knots, and they have a range of 7 clicks. Now, maximum damage is stated at 10,000. Do not expect to get that. Your Mutsu has a top speed of 26.5 knots. Its turning radius is 770 meters. Your surface detectability range is 16.92 kilometers. I mentioned that rudder deflection. That does not jive with what the data mine stats are saying for the rudder shift time, which is 14.7 seconds. So, I did say that it might be self-evident what that rudder deflection speed is. not so much. And I haven't got clarification yet on what that really is. So, time will tell. I'll update if I have a chance, but as of right now, I'm kind of as to a loss what that rudder deflection speed is. It's going to be 17.9, but according to data mine stats again, maneuverability, the rudder shift time is 14.7 seconds. Now let's talk about the ship in general. I said that I could not fall in love with it, and I stand by that. There's a couple reasons why. First, this ship is squishy. I mean super slug-like squishy. You are going to take a lot of penetrating hits in this ship. I don't like that in a battleship. I've been playing German battleships far too long. And when a ship is squishy, people have a tendency to sit back and snipe. And really, for a tier 6 ship that's going to be up-tiered against tier 8 battleships and tier 7 battleships, that's just asking for trouble being that squishy. I'm used to pushing in battleships. You cannot do that in this battleship. If you push against tier 8 ships, you are going to get rocked. You're going to get rocked hard. Yeah, and you've got torpedoes on you? You think you're going to rush in there and use those like you're in a tier pits or something? No, that is a recipe for disaster. Those torpedoes you have, get them out of your system. Don't even think about putting yourself in a position where you can use them. You are slow. You can't chase ships down like you can in a Scharnhorst or a Gneisenau or a Tirpitz. And those torpedoes are launched like British cruisers, or at least most of them, one at a time. You don't have a spread like you do in German battleships. So as far as I'm concerned, these torpedoes are borderline worthless. They are a last resort weapon. Yes, I've hit battleships with these torpedoes. You saw that. But what kind of damage did I do? It said you can do up to 10,000 HP worth of damage with these torps. No, against the Bismarck, against tier 8 battleships, you're going to do 5,000 or 6,000 damage. You're better off firing your guns. And now that I mentioned guns, let's talk about this ship's guns. Because that's another thing I don't like about the Mutsu. Yes, I've already said that the reload is slow. 35 seconds. That's extremely slow. Your damage per minute is, I don't want to say atrocious, but yeah, atrocious. Alright, so they're going to drop that down to 30 seconds. That's good. However, your dispersion is horrible. The sigma on your dispersion is, it's not favorable. RNGesus does not shine on this ship. I have fired many a salvo that I thought was gonna blow a devastating strike, only to see no citadels, and forget the citadels, they didn't even hit the ship. So your dispersion on this ship is just not there. On a Japanese battleships, you would think that your guns are at least pretty good. I mean, they're huge guns, they're hard hitting, but I was not getting the citadels that I was expecting, because even at relatively close range of 12 and 13 and 14 kilometers, I just wasn't hitting my target. Sometimes it feels like this ship cannot hit the broadside of a barn. And in a battleship, with as slow a reload as it has, that is not a good thing. So right there's two things that, well, three things that I absolutely don't like about this battleship. It's squishy, it takes citadels from odd angles and other battleships you just wouldn't. Bayern I don't have these issues with. I mean, hell, even the New Mexico I don't. And I certainly don't in the Arizona, which is a tier 6 premium. So right there's something I don't like. You can't push like you want to in this ship, because even if you're angled what you think is properly, you are going to eat penetrations and you're going to take a lot of serious damage. So there's one thing right there I don't like. The second thing is the torpedoes, which are a novelty. They are a novelty more than anything. Those torpedoes, like I said, borderline worthless. And then 3, the guns. The guns just flat out blow in my opinion. Honestly, I like having good rounds with battleships, and I just did not have one with the Mutsu. I didn't. Honestly, I'm stretching back into my memory to see if I even had a 100,000 K round, and no, I don't think I had one. I think this is the first battleship that I have never had a 100,000 damage round in while I was testing it. And that off the bat tells me there's something wrong with it. I even adjusted my play style. I held back, I sniped, which I hated doing, and no, it just did not work out the way I wanted. And let's talk about the fourth thing I hate about this ship. Your maneuverability is sluggish and pig-like. And what happens when your maneuverability sucks? You are fair game for any CV captain that halfway knows what they're doing. You can't escape it. You try to maneuver away from torpedo bombers, but you're just not going to be able to. Anyone that halfway knows what they're doing is going to be able to drop on you to massive, devastating effect. So yeah, the Mutsu. I just... Honestly, it's the first battleship that I've come across, especially the first premium battleship I've come across, that I absolutely don't like. And this is a tier 6 premium ship. And it's at a tier where you've got the Arizona and you've got the Warspite. So Arizona and Warspite in tier 6. How does it stack up against those battleships? Well, yeah, the Warspite is kind of sluggish in her own rights, but she hits hard, and I actually enjoy playing her a lot. I haven't played her as much as I should lately. Arizona, hands down I'd take the Arizona over the Mutsu. So, as the Mutsu stands, I'm telling you right now, I cannot recommend her if you are a battleship aficionado. If you love battleships, steer clear of the Mutsu, as she stands right now. Now, that being said, those changes are coming online. Once those changes hit, once that reload time quickens a little bit, once her maneuverability gets a little bit better, well then, maybe we might have something right there. I just don't know yet, because I haven't had hands on her after release when she's going to get all these buffs. So until then, I'm going to say hold tight. Do not purchase the Mutsu yet. Wait for more reviews to start coming out after her release. Once things look favorable, if they do based upon these changes that are going to happen, then make your decision. And I will be sure to update as well. As soon as the final product hits, make sure to test her a little bit, see if she's improved. But as it stands right now, just hold off 1 second. Because personally, as someone that likes playing battleships a lot, I can't recommend her as she stands. But I don't want to be unfair to this battleship because it's not a final product. So this review is based upon the ship that I played. And that's going to be a little different from the final one we get. The question we have to ask right now is, are these changes that are set to hit going to be enough to propel this ship from being mediocre and spongy, which the sponge will remain because the armor is not going to change, but will the other changes propel this ship past mediocrity into a ship that is actually viable at tier 6 and can hold its own at tier 8? Right now, no. After the fact, maybe. And I know that it can. Those guns are there. And I just really want them to tighten up the guns a little bit and the dispersion. If they can just do a stealth tweak onto the Sigma just a little bit, it will help this ship so much. So more even than the decrease in the reload time, this ship needs a little tweak, just a teeny little tweak to the dispersion. If it does that, with these other changes coming, I think then we might have something viable. So guys, that is my review, that is my preview on the Mutsu right now. So if you're a collector, if you gotta have it, if you gotta have all the battleships that come out, go ahead and go for it. I'm not saying you're gonna get a great ship. It's mediocre at best. However, time will tell if these changes that are coming are gonna make the ship better. And that's my final verdict on it. It's a hold as of right now. Anyhow, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll be sure to update as it comes out. I'll let you know my thoughts after it's released with all these changes on it. Take it easy. See y'all later. Zoop out.